Good morning, Spanish Fork City, and thank you for joining us this morning for this special Facebook Live where we'll talk about the Fiesta Days Rodeo. We are excited to be here today with you discussing the rodeo and some of the changes that you might see this year at the rodeo. Before we jump into some of the content we'll talk about and getting to your questions, first I'd like to introduce our panel today. We've got to my left Mayor Steve Leifson. To my right in the red, we've got the city manager, Seth Perrins. And to my far right, we have Nick Hanks, who is the Fiesta Days Rodeo chairman. So thanks to these three gentlemen for joining me today. Right off the bat, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions regarding the rodeo, please put those questions in the comments section on Facebook Live, and we will get to those here momentarily. But Seth, Mayor, and Nick, I think we all share the same sentiment that we are ecstatic about having the Fiesta Days Rodeo this year, and I think that sentiment is shared among the residents. But the decision to have the rodeo, to continue with it, it wasn't a decision that was really made lightly or quickly or in haste. Mayor, can you talk a little bit about kind of the process leading up to that final decision to move forward this year?
You bet. I said day one when we first started this that I wanted to have the rodeo and I wanted to have Fiesta Days unless someone tells me I can't. And so we've been working very diligently each time a phase change, what is available, what we can do or can't do in those phases. We've worked with the state, we've worked with the Utah County Health Department, telling us what it would look like if we even could have a rodeo. A lot of rodeos have been canceling, and we've been holding out as long as we could to find out if we could have this. So through working with the state, local COVA task force, and Utah County Health Department, they told us that we could have a rodeo in yellow if we wore masks and had practice safe practices wherever we can to hold this rodeo. So that's a little overlay of what transpired there.
Right, and being a member of, you and I, both members of our city task force for COVID-19, I know that this was one of the first questions that cropped up back in March was, hey, you know, even though the rodeo is several months down the road, let's start looking now at what we might face come July when rodeo comes. Exactly,
yeah. One of the biggest questions, or probably the most questions are asked of me, are we having a rodeo? Are we having Fiesta Days? We need to celebrate after being cooped up on this over the months that we've had here, and so my position is let's have it if we can do it safely, and if we're following all the guidelines that have been told to us so we can have this rodeo.
Yeah, exactly. Seth, Mayor talked a little bit about how we've been working with local and state health officials and mentioned some of the requirements that they gave us, you know, primarily wearing masks. Can you talk a little bit more about those interactions and some of those changes that the attendees this year might recognize as they come to the rodeo?
Some of the differences?
Yeah, some of the
differences. Yeah, you bet. First of all, I think we need to say we're coming to you live from the Fiesta Days Hall of Fame, right? This is the Fiesta Days Hall of Fame, and if people could walk around this room, they'd see some pretty neat memories and history about our rodeo. Great legacy that this rodeo is. But as you said, Scott, there are a handful of changes that our guests will find this year at the rodeo. And we're going to do everything we can to have it be as normal as possible, but we are putting on a rodeo in a pandemic. And I can't make that point, you know, lightly. We are putting on a rodeo in a pandemic, and we're doing something that is unique. And so first of all, the number one requirement that we started hearing from the state 3 weeks ago in our discussions with them is if we could do a rodeo, as we see the layout today, you need to plan for everybody to wear a mask. And that's been consistent from day one. And we've known that, and we've weighed the risks. We've weighed the, will the fans want to wear masks? Will there be problems with that? But our Fiesta Days Rodeo Committee and the Diamond Fork Riding Club, together as we've consulted about what do we do, every one of the individuals involved has said, We want to have a rodeo, and if to have a rodeo we have to wear a mask, we'll do it because we want a rodeo. You'll see in the concessions will be significantly spread out this year. Something that we've needed to do for many years, but it'll be more spread out than even what we had planned to do this year. And so the walkways around the rodeo arena will be a lot more clear and passable. You won't be able to congregate on certain walkways near entrances where historically people maybe have come in, stood on the mezzanine and watched for a while. Well, we won't be able to have that. And a lot of hand sanitizing, a lot of cleaning, right? We're gonna be cleaning the bathrooms more regularly than normal. We're gonna be cleaning high-touch areas, and there'll be hand sanitizing stations throughout the venue. And then one thing that people might notice, at least as of right now, the stands won't be sold out, very likely. Right now, the limit we have on the seating is 6,000. The state has given us direction that we can sell more tickets if, and they've outlined a few factors that if they line up, we could sell more tickets. But we are confident that we'll be able to sell out the allotment that we are allowed, which today is 6,000 seats. But if we can have more, based on whatever the circumstances and changes may come, we have the ability to actually put more seats into circulation. And so I would say to the public, buy your ticket now, because if you want to go to the rodeo, because you may not be able to go. Seats will sell out faster. I think there's about 12,000 seats over the 5 nights that were down because of COVID. So if you want to go, get your seats now. We're coming down. I think the 24th is just about sold out.
Yeah,
today
150 tickets or so
today
left is all.
on June 16th. So.
Well, and in any year, right, it's good to get your tickets ahead of in advance. Nick, how many consecutive sellouts have we had so far?
Oh, I think this will be, I think it was 13 after last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
we're well over, probably right around that 50, 52 consecutive performances sold
Wow.
out.
And we're going to count it a sellout if we can sell out every ticket the state will allow.
Definitely.
If it's, it may have an asterisk in the history books, but if the state says we can sell 6,000 a night and we do, that's a sellout.
that's a sellout.
Yeah.
Awesome. Seth or Nick, whoever wants to talk a little bit about this, one of the items that came to us from the state and makes this event unique is the fact that we can do contact tracing. We know everyone who's purchased a ticket, and if I come to the rodeo and let's say someone tests positive, we have the ability to kind of track down and notify individuals who
Yeah, let me speak to this, Nick, for a
participant.
moment. That actually was one of the single most important factors of us being able to put on this rodeo. Our ability to contact trace. When we started talking with the state health department officials 3 weeks ago, they asked us a series of questions, and the most important question we learned is that we know every person that buys seats. And so if Seth goes and buys 5 seats for my family, or I buy 10, whatever that number is, we know through our seating, our ticket system, who bought those seats. And we can then communicate to you. And so if there is an issue that develops, say somebody sitting in section M a few days later has tested positive for COVID, the health department can trace back that, well, they were at the rodeo on this night, they were sitting in section M, and they can identify potentially people that were sitting around them, and they can use that to do tracing and potentially alert and put a stop to any potential spread. Because we have contact tracing, we could do different things. If this was a general admission rodeo where you came in and you found your own seat and there were just 6,000 people sitting in the stands, we would not be able to do it with masks and other things. It has to be like the assigned seating that we have.
Nick, we've talked a lot about some of the changes that we'll see at the rodeo this year, but I'm sure there will be a lot of things that don't change, right? What can our attendees expect this year out of the rodeo in terms of entertainment and other aspects of the rodeo that they've grown to love?
Absolutely. So we have a awesome rodeo plan this year, COVID-19 or not. It should be one for the history books. The contestants will be readily available. There won't be a lot of other rodeos that they're trying to get to. So we should have the best of the best. The stock should be well rested, with the rodeos being canceled leading up to ours. Our specialty act is backed by popular demand. Last year we had the high flying motorcycle act where we set up the 2 ramps and they jump. Man, it seems like 100 feet. I don't know how far it is, but it's a long way.
It's like a mile.
Yeah. Front flips, back flips, tail
Awesome.
whips, all of that.
Right.
These guys aren't hacks. I can't remember the exact resume, but multiple time X game champions. They're as good as it gets.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. We have JJ Harrison back as our clown. JJ's amazing. He's wonderful. A lot of people have probably seen the video when he got Officer Adams out there dancing. I think it's got 3 or 4 million views on YouTube. So it'll be fun. Hopefully not a lot of changes as far as to the rodeo. There will be masks, as Seth said. That'll go down to the contestants, the contract people working. Everyone will be that way. But as far as time, I don't think it'll slow us down. We are starting at 7:30 this year instead of 8 o'clock, which will be kind of a fun change. It'll get people out of there and hopefully back home a little earlier.
Yep.
So,
I think that's worth restating again, because if people show up for the rodeo like they have normally at 7:50, they're going to be 20 minutes late. And we announced that change last year, and it's on the tickets and things. But this is a great change. It's going to be a little bit earlier. You'll get out of there earlier. It'll be a little bit easier on maybe the younger kids and maybe even some of the older fans. And then if some of the Fiesta Day celebration things are able to happen like we want, say the fireworks, it won't affect the fireworks, because it's about a 2-hour and 15-minute performance on the shortest, and on the long ends it can get as long as 2 hours and 45 minutes, which means we'll end somewhere around that 10 o'clock mark most nights, and that's a perfect ending for this kind of an event.
Great, Nick. I love how you talked a lot about the entertainment, and there are ways for our residents to participate as well, right? It sounds like we're still have our application open for individuals to sing the national anthem and even have a few mutton busting spots available.
we do. I just looked this morning. We're down to about 6 mutton busting spots left. So jump on that if you want your son or daughter to be involved, 5 to 7 years old at the time of the rodeo. There's a few of those. We're going to take national anthem applications until the middle of next week, and then we'll sit down and make some decisions and finalize that. So, yeah, a lot of ways to be involved.
Awesome. Yeah, go to our website, sffiestadaysrodeo.com, and we've got some information available there. We've got the applications available for you to sign up for those different activities. A lot of the questions, gentlemen, that we get are regarding the masks. And Mayor, one question that we get a lot is, do I have to bring my own mask, or will there be masks available if I show up and I don't have one on hand? Can you talk a little bit about what we're doing for that?
You bet. If you're more comfortable bringing your own mask, by all means, bring your own mask. But we will provide masks, bandanas. We're going to make this kind of a fun deal for everybody to come to the rodeo. If you want to look like a cowboy, we'll have a bandana that you can wear that will work as a mask. Or if you have a mask that you'd like to wear, bring it. And let me just emphasize again, the only reason we're able to have this rodeo if we're still in yellow is we have to wear a mask. And so I know it's different. I don't care if you believe their masks are good or not, but this is the one way they told us that we can have this rodeo, and is by wearing a mask. And so if you aren't comfortable wearing a mask, maybe this isn't the year to come to our rodeo. Maybe wait till next year. But we all want a rodeo, and if this is the way we have to do it, then by all means, let's follow the guidelines and let's do it.
Awesome.
Maybe just to add, we've got
Some show and tell over here.
yeah, like
with,
you can do
Seth.
anything. We'll have bandanas, which this isn't what we'll hand out, but here's a bandana. This would be a great bandana for our Patriot Night, which is our Tuesday night performance, and just a simple tie it around the ends. The Outlaws wore them in the 1800s, And so,
Camouflage?
well, sure,
Okay.
sure, because they couldn't be caught. My guess is, anyways, here's one that you can, every Utahn can get a mask. This is one that comes from the state of Utah, and you can, some people have, like this is kind of a sleeve of things that when I run in the cold or whatever, I can put this over my head and it just simply comes up over my face. This would be a great one to wear on Tough Enough to Wear Pink Night. You'll see any type of mask, and we don't care what it looks like, just a face covering of any kind. And as the mayor said, we'll make them available to fans that don't have them. And we're going to try to have fun with it. There are probably going to be some contests some of the nights, maybe the coolest mask, the mask that best represents Spanish Fork or the rodeo, the most bedazzled. There's some pretty bedazzling outfits in rodeo, and maybe we'll have some, but we're going to try to have some fun with it because this is how we're having a rodeo.
Yeah. Another common question that we've received at the city offices and we've seen on social media is concern about wearing masks based off of personal circumstances, maybe some underlying health issues, maybe children under the age of 2. Seth, can you talk a little bit about, maybe I have a child, hypothetically that has some underlying health issues. Will they be required to wear a mask?
We're going to keep working with the state on this question. I think this is a great question, and at the moment, the only answer I have that I can give is everybody needs to wear a mask. There are, I'm sure, several reasons why people may not be able to. But we're going to work with the state and try to find that out. But at the moment, here's my best answer. If you can't wear a mask, this may not be the year that you go to the rodeo. And hopefully that answer changes for some people, and maybe it'll change tremendously because of the circumstances in July. But plan on wearing a mask. And if you bring young kids, it's tough putting a 2-year-old in a mask, and I think that's one that everybody understands. But at the moment, that's just the best, simplest thing I can give you. We should note, this is going to be broadcast live, right?
It will be live all 5 nights. Yeah.
And so if you can't come to the rodeo and you want to watch it, that's an
Yeah.
option.
Yeah, it'll be live all 5 nights on the Cowboy Channel. So
And we can make sure that our residents know what that is and how they can get that. But that's a way that they can enjoy that rodeo too.
I think if we've learned anything since March, it's that things can change and they can change quickly with this COVID-19 situation. And so right now we're in yellow, we're in the low risk phase. What if things change and we get to green? What might the rodeo look like in a month from now if we get the green light and we're in green?
No idea. We the best way we could plan for the rodeo is what we know. And we knew some of the guidelines that were going to come out, that did come out, I think it was last Friday on 4.6. Many of the public didn't know what was coming, but we knew through our meetings with the state, we knew what some of those guidelines would look like. And that was what gave us the comfort level to go forward. If we go to green, then the direction, or rather the insight we've been given from the state is it will be better, it will be easier. What that looks like, we don't know.
Right.
We just know that here are the rules in yellow today, and green will be easier. Does that mean we don't have to wear a mask? We don't know those specifics.
Yeah.
We've asked, and they don't know. They're continually doing what they do, which frankly is fantastic. We're so pleased with how well they're doing things on the state level, and we're in lockstep with them. But I don't know.
yeah,
Stay tuned.
I'm convinced some of those guidelines haven't been written yet.
Yeah.
They monitor numbers and write those as they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question, we've fielded quite a few phone calls at the city office about individuals looking to get a refund. Maybe you have an underlying health issue, or maybe you're at risk population or age group. Certainly we understand if you fall into one of those categories, or just feel uncomfortable coming to the rodeo this year. And so we encourage you, if you have any concerns and would like to get a refund for your tickets, we've set the deadline for ticket refunds to be issued through the end of this week, so the 19th of June. Please contact us at the city office at 801-804-4501, and our staff can help work through your particular situation and issue a refund if that's what's best for your situation. Now we recognize that, Nick, what if someone they've bought tickets for the 24th and they wake up on the 24th and they're feeling sick. They've got a temperature. Certainly we would ask them and would hope that they don't come to the rodeo, but we would accommodate situations like that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, anyone that isn't feeling well should stay home, and we would ask them to stay home and would be more than happy to offer them a full refund. This deadline that you talked about, it's kind of for people that bought tickets maybe last year or the first part of this year before COVID was around, and we don't want to force anyone to be there. If you're not comfortable or any of the issues that you talked about, Scott, we definitely want to refund their money and hope to see them again in the future. But if you are sick leading up to the rodeo, we'll definitely take care of you and refund that money.
Yeah. Awesome. And if you haven't purchased your tickets yet, there's still some available, as we mentioned. You can purchase those online directly through the city at sfcitytix, and that's TIX.com. There are other vendors online that sell rodeo tickets, but they're not directly through the city, and oftentimes they charge pretty high fees and whatnot. So
We found that last year.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. Some of those tickets were selling for $50, $75. And if you just Google search Fiesta Days Rodeo and you click on one that is not SF City Tix, you're probably going to be taken advantage of, and there's nothing we can do about that.
right.
They actually don't buy any tickets until you buy them from them, and then they go and secure whatever they can, and that's just capitalism, I guess. But,
So get your tickets directly through the city, sfcitytix.com. There's still some available there.
One thing, Scott, is this is a rodeo, we're in yellow right now, and this is what we can do if we were yellow. And so we talk about what happens if we go green. If we go back by some way to orange or red, we can't do this.
yeah.
Because we're not, this can only be done in yellow. So just be aware, those who are concerned about, well, hey, you guys are putting us at risk. No, we're not putting you at risk. This is what they're telling us we can do in yellow and what we can do in green.
And I think that's a good point to add, Mayor, that we still need to be doing our best as we go out and we shop and we interact with friends and family and with the general public, that we follow those guidelines so that we don't face a situation where we get bumped back
Exactly.
to orange or heaven forbid, even red. So thank you for that point, Mayor. Let's jump on to our Facebook comments. We've received quite a few. We'll kind of jump through these. We got one question focused on vendors, Nick. Are we still accepting any applications for food vendors?
We're not. Our vendor process takes place early. We accept applications the month of February. The vendors at our rodeo, I think, historically do quite well, and it's a pretty coveted spot. So the end of February, we shut off applications, and then we sit down as a committee and select the vendors. And that's all been in motion for months now. So.
Okay, great. We've got a couple questions here that are worth clarifying in terms of the occupancy and how we've withheld some of those tickets to be at that 6,000 capacity. So one of them asks, are we going to limit ticket sales to accommodate social distancing? And the other asks, last week in City Council, we mentioned that we were going to need to sell at least 75% occupancy to break even. And so if we're only selling at 50%, which we're selling at more than 50% capacity, right? It's 6,000 of 8,000 is more than 50%. How will that affect the cost of the rodeo?
Yeah, great question, and I appreciate that clarification. 6,000 tickets is actually 72% capacity. But last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess now, in council meeting, we projected a budget of revenues and expenditures that we were comfortable with. And when we do budgets, we always err on the side of estimating revenue low and expenditures, at what we know, maybe through contract, or high if there are things unknown. And we estimated a couple of different revenue factors, comfortable but low. And in the last 2 weeks, Nick and the great work that he's done with sponsors and with other people has brought our revenue projections up. If we were presenting tonight, we'd have a different number. than 2 weeks ago because of the work and frankly, I think because of the excitement amongst those saying we're actually going to have a rodeo. So at 6,000 seats, which is 72%, because of some of those other revenue numbers going up, the rodeo will do, it'll do okay. It's not like in previous years, but it'll do okay.
And to kind of reiterate on the social distancing, those tickets that we've withheld aren't necessarily there to space out groups or anything.
Yeah, sorry, I totally missed that question.
No, you're good.
In the arena, and this is with the guidelines from the state, people are able to sit shoulder to shoulder, so there are no seats held out for social distancing in the arena. And I encourage anybody that has concerns about this to go on the state's website, coronavirus.utah.gov, and look at the newest guidelines 4.6. But face coverings are worn when physical distancing isn't feasible. So when I'm sitting in the arena, that I definitely need to have my mask on. And so we'll expect to have shoulder to shoulder, basically. Some people are buying seats to their left and right, giving their family a little bit of space. Some people are doing a few in front, and that's totally fine too. But inside that arena, they'll be kind of normally seated, except for there will be potentially some vacancies, and I'd imagine those will be on the higher ones. And if people then want to spread out, because the row behind them didn't sell and they want to go up a row, there will be some natural spreading out that can occur. But generally speaking, we haven't separated out seats in the arena for social distancing.
Okay. Brady commented, Spanish Fork has one of the best rodeos in the state and here in the western United States. Well, thank you, Brady.
Yeah, thank you, Brady.
He asked, so we're planning on broadcasting and partnering with the Cowboy Channel to show this live. Will it also be available on Channel 17, our own cable network?
It will not. They've done some of that in the past. The Cowboy Channel bought those media rights from us and has exclusivity on that.
Okay. So residents, subscribers to SFCN, our cable network, will be able to watch it on the Cowboy Channel, but not necessarily on SF17.
Correct.
Okay. Perfect. We get a lot of questions, Mayor, about other Fiesta Days events. Will we still have the parade? Will we still have fireworks? Other things like that. We've kind of got a plan on the Fiesta Days website that shows what we'll have in yellow and what we'll have in green. That's at sffiestadays.com. But I think we share the same sentiment with Fiesta Days as we do with the rodeo, that we want to have it and we'll have it.
Definitely. And a lot of it will depend on where we're at. If we're in green, a lot of these things will still carry on. Like Scott said, if you go on the website, you'll see what's available in yellow. There'll be certain things that we can still do in yellow. And we have a list, quite a big list of those things, car show being one, a few other things. There's quite a list. And if we go to green, then we'll have a pretty quote unquote normal Fiesta Days, if we can do that. Right now, if we stay in yellow, I doubt if we'll be able to have our grand parade, just because of the social distancing. And the one big thing, the difference between that and the rodeo is when you're along the parade route, you don't know who you're standing by.
Right.
In the rodeo, we know who's there in every seat. And so if there's a problem, we can contact you. We can't do that on the parade route as easy. So yeah, if everybody goes on to that website, there's a list of activities that will be available in yellow and activities available in green. So let's do our part now so we can all be in green. Like Scott said earlier, if we can do our part by wearing our masks, social distancing, being safe, wash our hands, keep that virus at bay, then we can move to the green status.
Great. Yeah, that website again is sffiestadays.com, and that's where you can see the list. Right now, we currently have listed the fireworks spectacular in concert listed as green. the Pyro musical was canceled just because there were some issues with getting fireworks in time and whatnot with that provider.
You know, I ordered something like most people, and it ended up shipping from overseas, and it took, I think it was 2 months to get here. I'm so used to Amazon Prime 2-day shipping, right? It took, I think it was 2 months to get here, and unfortunately that vendor, the group, the team that does the Pyro musical, they're victim to that shipping thing. They just couldn't get the materials that they use. Other vendors have been able to do that. Maybe they make it locally or they have supplies, but they just weren't able to do that, which is very unfortunate. It's a great event.
Devin and Monica, they ask if we purchased tickets months ago, are they still good? Yes, if you purchased your tickets from sfcitytix.com, whether you purchased them yesterday or back on July 25th, they're still good for this 2020 rodeo. So again, if you haven't purchased tickets yet, sfcitytix.com is the place to go. Let's see. This is kind of a tough question, Seth. You're
going to give it to me?
Seth gets all the tough questions. So there's a lot of risk involved with having a rodeo. There's risk on part of the participants, right? The bull riders and all of our athletes that participate in the rodeo. There's risk in part of the attendees who decide to come to the rodeo. And considering all the risks associated with that, I think there's thought and worry and conversation brewing out there that who carries the risk? If I come to the rodeo and I end up getting COVID-19, where does the risk lie with that and responsibility?
Sure. I think, on many people, on first of all, me, the participant, I am choosing to go to that rodeo. But I think probably most important to reiterate something Nick said earlier, if you don't feel well or family members don't feel well, stay home. The tickets say that. The ticket email that you get, the website says that. This is an unnormal year. This is just not a normal year. So if you don't feel well, stay home. And there are a handful of questions that the tickets have for you to go through as a family. If you have a fever or if you have whatever the circumstances are, then stay home. We are doing everything that we can to follow the state regulations. And as we've chatted with the state, it's a very important part in the nation that we restart things. And so in order to do that, we have to start. Somebody has to start. And the state leaders with whom we visited have been very comfortable that follow the guidelines and do what we ask you to do, and maybe more. But do that and you're operating within the rules, then you're doing everything you can. But we can err on the side of absolute caution and not do anything, but at some point we have to start up again, right? In January we were having basketball games and different activities, and last fall football games in stands of 50, 60,000 people, and at some point life has to get back to some semblance of normal. And as we're doing these things, the state leaders and the national leaders want to find a way to move forward within the pandemic. And that's why the masks and the contact tracing, we will learn as a state through these different things that can we do it? And maybe the state will come back and say we can't, and maybe they'll come back and say that worked really well, and here are the things that we learned. But they're very eager, as we visited with them, for these kinds of things to start up again.
Yeah. Great. I love this next question, and I think this is our last question that we have, unless any more come through. But Aubrey asks, are we going to be able to eat our food and concessions that we purchase in the stands like usually? I love that question, right? I mean, I love a good snack at the rodeo, and if we're requiring masks, how do we kind of accommodate the ability for someone to eat and snack as they enjoy the rodeo while also respecting the regulation to wear a mask?
Well, they're going to have to take their mask off to eat.
Right.
And that's understandable. Hopefully people have their own hand sanitizer. They can take care of that when they're done eating. They can clean their hands again, put their mask back on. They can eat it out in the common areas. They can do things like that. But there is some common sense that comes in there, And when you're done eating, you put your mask back on.
Yeah, just use common sense. You know, it's crazy, and like Seth said, you know, you'll be able to eat in the stands. You know, we'll have plenty of hand sanitize stations throughout the whole arena, and if you feel comfortable, bring your own, and just use some common sense. Yeah, I know that's the fun part about going to the rodeo is eating the hamburgers and all the good fun stuff and having the drinks and
What's your
enjoy.
drink? You have your favorite drink. I can't remember what it is, but
Cherry Coke Zero. Is that good?
oh, you don't. You have like your favorite drink vendor. You're like, where?
Oh, well, you got the big Texan. Yeah, all that fun stuff.
Cherry Coke.
I thought you was getting a little personal there.
No,
on these.
at the rodeo.
Oh, at the rodeo. Give me those big Texas boots, lemonade. So I'll take that all day long. So, yeah, so the main thing is, and through all this, you know, we just need to understand as we practice good common sense, you know, that we can start getting back out and then getting back to our normal lifestyles, you know, because we don't want to be locked up forever, and that's not what we're trying to do. And so we're trying to ease into it, being safe. The only way that we're going to put this rodeo on is if we can do everything we can as a city, as a rodeo committee, to keep people safe, and that's what we're trying to do, and do the best we can.
There's a follow-up question to the concerns about the rodeo. Maybe I'll just address it here for Brian, that the rodeo, as far as financial losses and such, isn't insured. Never is any year. And we have specifically, Nick has had lots of conversations with our different contractors, and all understand that we're putting on a rodeo in a pandemic. And there are certain commitments that happen, and we passed some of those commitments in the first part of June, which is why we waited until we made the announcement June 3rd, I think. One stock contractor, or rather our stock contractor specifically, we've had this conversation with them, and they had to make some financial investments in order to get ready to come like they do every year, and that's usually not a big deal for them because they're hitting so many rodeos. But they are a partner in this. They want a rodeo as well. And so there are some financial expenses that we could have if we can't put on the rodeo. And we're certainly not planning. We're not planning for that. I mean, we have a plan for that, but we're planning that we'll be, as we are, yellow or green. But we've been in conversation with all of our contractors as well, and they understand that if circumstances force us to go backward, that they know going forward that risk too. So there's a big partnership. Everybody is really working together. This is not a decision that we arrived at cavalierly. It's not a decision that we arrived at quickly. No. The time and effort, the coordination and communication spent really has brought as many people as we can to the table. Some are partners in putting it on, and some are partners in the guidelines and enforcement of things. And we've got as much information as we can, and we feel like we've got even more information than we generally have available because of the partnerships that we've created. And we'll do our best going forward with that, knowing that there are risks. And the council, I think, Mayor, as we visited you and the different council members, said we understand those risks, and we think the community wants a rodeo. And I'll tell you, from the day Tuesday, 2 weeks ago, Tuesday night, to sometime a day later, about 18 hours later, some 2,600 tickets had sold. Yeah. And then by Friday, some 6,000. So from Tuesday until Friday, what is that, 4 days? 3.5 days? Yeah. About, 6,000 tickets had sold. And that's just confirmation that the community really wants it. If we can make this happen, the community really is wanting this to happen. And we'll do what we can within those rules to make it as safe as possible. And to all the fans that want the rodeo, maybe just to belabor this point, it's going to be different, and we need you to be patient, and we need you to wear a mask. To the fans that don't want it, we understand those concerns, and the concerns that you have, we have walked through those, and we invite you to join us next year, and stay being a fan. But we've really just tried to balance everything.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you. I can't think of a better note to end on. Thank you to our viewers on Facebook, on YouTube, as well as on SF17. Thank you for your questions. We hope that we've been able to answer those well for you today. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at the city. We'll be more than happy to answer those for you. If you haven't purchased tickets yet and are interested in attending the rodeo this year, you can buy your tickets online at sfcitytix.com. For more information about the rodeo, visit sffiestadaysrodeo.com. On behalf of Mayor Steve Leifson, City Manager Seth Perrins, and our Fiesta Days Rodeo Chairman Nick Hanks, thank you for joining us today. And we hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you all at the Fiesta Days Rodeo this July. Thank you.
Thank you.